Welcome back to With the Chiefs. This week is the 7th episode of the Become a Better Runner series. Today we've got the pleasure of catching up with Oregon student university athlete Izzy Thornton Bott. Izzy and I trained together many moons ago, both being coached under Ben Lee's Central Performance squad. Back then, Izzy was only just finishing up high school, but it soon became clear that she was destined for greater things, and Izzy has since developed into one of the best middle distance runners in the world. She's currently got a global ranking of 217th in the 1500 meters, and her all-time best ranking was 118th. Izzy's talent has led her to both study in Canada and America at Waterloo University, and now Oregon University, which is arguably the best distance running university in the world. So welcome, Izzy.
Welcome, thanks, Dom. Thanks, Luke. I got to be honest, I just learnt those stats myself. So thank you for looking them up.
No, it's pretty impressive. Like, yeah, I was looking up like, oh my God, like Izzy's a gun. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you started off then, it was like one of the best middle distance athletes in the world. And I was like, oh, okay. Thank you for that. But you really don't need to bust me up. It's fine. Yeah.
Usually we start off these episodes just talking about our training in the past week, just going through the highlights of the week.
Okay.
Is that all good with you?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So what's been happening the past week?
Well, we literally, last night we just got back from the Pac-12 invite. So it's been a bit of a different week of training than it normally would, just a little less intense. Our usual rundown is pretty much like twice a day, every day, with the exception of Sunday. And we'll have a mix of, different types of threshold sessions and track sessions, gym, or as it's called over here, weights. You're easy on your own runs. I do pool sessions at least twice a week. So it's a bit of a mixed bag with everything that you're doing, as would be in any healthy athletic program. So this week, what did we start off with? Monday. That was a long time ago. Yeah, it's usually some form of actually, you know what did happen this week, which was also different? We had a really cold spell on Monday. It hit like minus 6 degrees Celsius. So our coach was like, we're not going to train Tuesday morning. We are going to train Tuesday afternoon, which was great, until you realize that we had to do a track session and then follows up with weights immediately after. So, this week it's just been pretty light. We did threshold, couple of just easy shakeout type runs, just some easy mileage. We had a track session a couple of days out, and then just did the one easy run on Wednesday morning before we traveled on Thursday. We did our pre-meet Thursday after we arrived in Seattle, and then Friday, Saturday I was racing, and we got back last night, and now it's Sunday morning. So
yeah, wow, that's crazy. How'd the race go?
Yeah, they both went really well, thank you. I ran my debut 1200 leg for the DMR, and we qualified for indoor nationals. We're ranked 3rd in the NCAA right now.
Wow.
And then I backed it up with a 3K, which is my second 3K ever. So a 24-second PB would sound more impressive in other contexts if I wasn't 18 the last time I ran one.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, well done on making nationals with the team.
Thank you. We're pretty stoked.
And so what's the focus then at the moment? Is that just sort of get to nationals and go from there, or?
Yeah, right now I would say for both myself and the team, the main gig and the main goal right now is indoor nationals, but this was also kind of like the last weekend where you could qualify for it. So you'll get official, I think the NCAA, I'm still learning the system, but it should release the entry lists on Monday, I think it is, so tomorrow for us and Tuesday for you guys. And then you'll know for sure. But like if you're in the top 12 or the top 16, depending on what event you're going into, you usually know at this point if you're going or not. It's more those people who are in the higher spots and just need to hear, check that no one's actually taken their spot, or that someone might have withdrawn and stuff like that. So
yeah, it's pretty crazy times then. That's
yeah.
interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I guess like it's pretty fun. Like me and Smitty would never really have to deal with any of that. Trying to like make a team or get to a competition. Yeah, thanks for the insight.
That's all right.
What about you, Smitty? How's your week been going?
Definitely not that eventful. I had a bit of a shocker of a week, if I'm honest.
We've all been there, Smitty. We've all been there.
I did my easy running, if that counts.
Oh yeah, that's on me.
No. Basically, you know how we had a bit of a moment with the weather. So on Wednesday morning, I was meant to do a session. I didn't do that because it was pouring. I convinced myself I was going to do it in the afternoon after work. Didn't happen. I don't know, in the morning it's like, yeah, if I just rest a little bit, then, you know, I'll probably do it in the afternoon. No, it's like maybe a 20% chance. I probably should learn from my past mistakes. But anyway, that was Wednesday. I did some decent easy running, like if I can say that. And then Saturday, I was also meant to do a threshold session, like 5 by 2K, but I didn't do that either. But then I tried to make up for it on Sunday. I had a pretty solid long run with 2 by 5K at threshold. So that's not a bad way to end the week at least. But yeah, going into next week, it'll be just focusing on getting back into the sessions before Canberra in 6 weeks, I think.
It's tough, like with the rain, to get out and do a session.
It is, especially in the morning before work. It's like, it's so much more difficult.
And I think there's value sometimes in having a bit of downtime as well. Like, you can't just be pushing it all the time. So I don't know, don't be too hard on yourself.
My thoughts are the downtime probably should be at least do the sessions and like miss a few easy runs. But anyway, what about you, Dom?
Yeah, it's a bit of an interesting week. I think, I've been probably going a bit too hard the past few weeks. So I felt really drained on Monday and was just like, I got out for a jog, but to be honest, I don't even think I should have been out there. Like, I was really tired and like just foggy brain, like not even thinking straight. So I took it easy. And then Tuesday we did some hill sprints. We did like 15 by 1 minute hill sprints with like 1 minute recovery, which was good. And then what did we do? What else did we do? Thursday I did I was really pressed for time, so I didn't have much available time to get out and do a session. So at lunchtime I just ran for a tempo for like 20 minutes, not even like 15 minutes. Then I had to get back in the office. And then after work, I was like, okay, I'm going to do the other half of the session or do another half of something. So I jumped in with the turbo guys and did a few fast reps. I think they were doing a session where they went 600, 400, 300. And they did that 3 times. And I just jumped in for the last set, which was all right. I think seeing as I was pretty pressed for time, I did well to fit in 2 little sessions. And then on Saturday, I went down and did the 440. It's like a hilly course. And I got the course record there, which was good. I think like everyone hypes it up to be something really big, but I don't know. It's not that competitive really. But
How many people were there how many people were there when you were?
It's pretty cool. It's like at 5 a.m. in the morning on Saturdays, all these crazy people come down to Bronte and run up this hill 10 times and on this hilly loop. And there's like, on Saturday, there was like 150 people there, all in the dark running. It's a pretty cool atmosphere and it's a really cool community and stuff. Everyone's just like zombies in the dark. But yeah, it was good.
I love how you said all these crazy people going out there and weren't also out there to do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
That's how I feel every morning. Just a crazy person getting up in the dark. at stupid hours and going running.
Oh,
Anyway.
I know one of the girls who's still training with Lydia at Central Performance Dom. Like, she lives in Mossman, and she says that she runs like Awaba Street at least once a
Oh,
week.
yeah.
And I'm like, dude, what? Like, why? Why would you do that to yourself?
It's crazy.
I'm still
Um,
recovering from the last time I did the Balmoral burn up that hill, and she just casually does it once a week, and ugh. Yeah.
Righty.
So this week's question is about how do college athletes train? I think, yeah, the best way we could approach this would be to talk to Izzy about her life before going to college, and what she was doing with her training, and then what she's up to now with her life at college, and then any ambitions she's got for the future after college. So life before college, Izzy, how did you get into running?
Wow, that's a bit loaded. Okay, how did I get into running? The story that my mom always tells me is that I was 9.5 months old, and like just looked down at my legs, saw they were there, and that was it. Like, I got up and I was running and climbing, and she has used the words nightmare child at least once before. Yeah, that saying, you gotta walk before you can run, turns out it's not always correct. I was just running everywhere, like didn't stop. That was it. And there came a point where my mum was like, okay, well, maybe we should she seems to enjoy this a lot. She seems to do it okay. Let's sign her up for a couple of races and, maybe a club. And so she did that when I was younger, and I got into my cross country. I've just kind of always done it. There have been periods where it kind of lulled in the background just because where we lived in the UK. So I was born in the UK and then immigrated to Australia when I was 15. But we lived in a really, really rural spot. So it wasn't always feasible to travel to different places. And sometimes it just didn't work out. And I had differing interests, or just, it's always been there, but it just wasn't always the forefront. Like, I would go out for a run and just do it because I enjoyed it, but it wasn't always a set program. That being said, I did run with a club for a good period there, and then just had fun with it, did it at school, always competed in the school carnivals and did what I could. Was super, super excited to always make it to zone and districts, and like whatever was racing. It didn't matter if it was up there with nationals or if it was just a local club meet. I was always just excited to do it. So
Definitely.
Then we moved out to Australia permanently, and I met a man by the name of John Atherton, and he used to be a very prominent coach with UTS North. And so that was, I guess, the first. I mean, like I said, I'd been with a club and I'd done some form of structured training, but he was the first guy that I went to where it was like several times a week. And, I did two sessions a week to start off with, and then just did my own easy runs around the side whenever I felt like it. And then I started doing the hill session on a Saturday morning, and like started getting a little bit more invested in it. And he sadly passed away in 2016, which actually coincided with just when I'd finished high school. So I had a lot of like uncertainty about where I was going and what I wanted to do. But Liddy, who had briefly trained with John, had just started up Central Performance. So I had a chat with him, and he was kind enough to let me join his team, and I was running with him. And that was the first time I had properly structured training. Like, I actually went and did things like gym for the first time in my life.
It's many years, still never done gym.
Yeah, I'm still learning about that one, but anyway.
It was so funny. Like, the first time I met Dave Costello, so he's the Right Fit PT on Instagram, and he works with Liddy at Central Performance and all sorts now. But it was like, I remember him asking me what my experience in gym was, and I was like, nothing. I have not done this. Like I have never picked up like a set of dumbbells before. So, yeah, so that really took off, and I did really, really well with him. And you know, now I'm here. There was a brief period where I went on an exchange semester to Canada, which is the Waterloo Warriors that you were talking about earlier. And yeah, now I'm here in Oregon. So
wow,
it's awesome.
What was it like training in that squad? I mean, you both have unique perspectives on that, but yeah, just your general thoughts on.
Outstanding. Liddy is a phenomenal coach, and I can't say enough good things about him. And he knows what he's doing. He's passionate about his athletes. He's passionate about his sport. He only ever wants, you know, you to be happy and healthy and achieve what you want to achieve. And if he's stressed, it's just because he wants things to go well for you. And you know, if you have a bad race, he's never one to point out the negatives. He just wants to see what the silver linings were when you walk away from it. So he, you know, he knows what he's doing, and there was nothing ever wrong with Central Performance. It was just that I had this opportunity to come here, and I thought, well, what have I got to lose? And like, why wouldn't I have a go at this? But
absolutely,
Liddy, yeah, Central Performance is such a good squad because you've got a huge diversity of people on it and backgrounds, and that really just aids to the strength of the squad and what makes it such a successful unit, in my opinion. And you know, when you're headed by someone like Liddy, who is Liddy, I really don't know how else to describe that, but yeah, I know Dom, you were with us for, was it 3 years?
Yeah, I think it was about 2 or 3
years.
Yeah,
3 years. Yeah, like if you remember, like how ecstatic he was when you broke 2 for the first time in Canberra. That was like, he, you know, he's excited, and he's inspired by getting athletes to where they want to go. And yeah.
No, it was great. And what about Johnny A? Like, did he have much of an influence on you? Or?
Oh, he had a huge influence on me. I love John, and I don't know, he was just always, where do I go with this? He was John. Yeah. And John was an interesting character and a wonderful character, and he had a lot of experience with athletics, and he was always there to you know, he just wanted the best for his athletes. His coaching style didn't suit everybody, because there were times where he was a little bit like, oh, you know, just run it around here, and wasn't always very specific and could be a little bit vague at times. And sometimes you'd rock up and it would be like, okay, so we're doing 300s today. And we're like, cool, how many? He's like, as many as you can. And it's like, oh, okay. Like, he was such a personality, and I will never quite forget how neon stripy shorts just look on a man like John when you rock up at Funny Farm at 8 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, he was a good egg.
There's a few stories about Johnny A.
Few stories about Johnny A.
He seems so committed to you guys. Like I think I can remember people saying he had his lawnmower out. At Funny Farm.
Oh yeah. Oh, one time he just like he used to pick me up from for a Saturday morning session from the train station, and we'd go out there earlier than everybody else, and he would just whip out this entire lawnmower from the back of his car and like just walk around the Macquarie fields with this lawnmower, like mowing out a way for his athletes to run up. It's like
oh dear,
it's so quirky. Yeah,
you really have to see that sort of Funny Farm to understand, because there's such a massive area of grass as well.
It's like this giant grass reserve in the middle of Macquarie, and there's hills, and if you leave the grass it'll go to like knee height, but not when Johnny A was around. He would whip out that lawnmower And I remember this one time as well, we were walking around putting out cones for just for the session, and I turned around for like 3 seconds, turned back and faced him, and he's got like this spray can, it's like spray paint can out, and he's like marking things on the ground.
Wow. Yeah.
And yeah, if you go I don't know what the road names are, but if you go to the corner of Funny Farm, the yellow spray circle is actually still there. But yeah, little permanent marks that, hey, Johnny A was here.
Yeah, we have a friend that calls that area the mangroves instead of anything.
Yeah, it took Smitty and the guys there a couple of times.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. There was long grass. Yeah, a few of them weren't happy with the state of it, but it's a good, certainly a good
my
session.
my hack for that is, come Funny Farm, you're always wearing knee-high socks. Like,
that's
so
a good one.
always
That
wearing
helped.
knee-high socks.
What about growing up? Did you play any other sports or have many other hobbies?
Yeah, I mean, I took part in the school sport, like what was on offer in the UK. You know, there'd be seasonal sports, like, this is England, so rounders, and then there would be athletics, and there'd be like football or soccer and hockey. I'd just be involved and do whatever. Outside of school, I did gymnastics for quite a while, and ballet as well for quite a period. But I did kickboxing as well, a form of Muay Thai for a bit there. And I just stuck with the school options and the extracurriculars that were cool along the way. But it wasn't like I was one of those kids that was always running around on a soccer team and or what's it, AFL, and I just sort of was Izzy.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, that looks cool, I'll do that. Yeah.
Any particular reason running stuck out the most out of all of those? Anything you can think of? I really wouldn't be able to tell you, but I do know there came a point where I just wasn't really enjoying the ballet anymore. And I said to Mum that I didn't think I wanted to keep doing it, and so I sort of stopped with that. And then, you know, it came to a point where I sort of had to choose between gymnastics and cross country, because of, I don't know whether it was like just the feasibility of because if you remember, we lived in a pretty rural spot, you know, just the feasibility of getting to these different activities as many times as I was doing it in a week, or whether it was just like my ability to cope with it, or how much sport I was doing. And I remember Mum saying something along the lines of, look, it would be a good idea to maybe choose one or the other, and cross country was just my love, so I stuck with that one. Okay, fantastic.
Sounds like you made the right choice.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I like to think so.
And so it sounds like your parents were pretty supportive, like letting you just choose whatever sport you wanted most of the time. Was there much other support you got externally from, I don't know, like Athletics New South Wales or high schools or anything?
Growing up, my grandparents were like just the biggest supporters. They're like, if you just to paint a picture, so my gramps, my mum's dad, he would drive out an hour from where he lived to pick me up from school. He would then drive me another hour or so out to where my club was. He would wait in the car park or like drive off to KFC while I was training. And then he would drive me nearly an hour and a half back home after the training session, before driving himself back to his home about an hour away. Wow. Every single Thursday night. Wow. And, you know, when we had the Saturday morning races, my grandparents would be there at like 6 o'clock, bright and early, at the door, like, come on, we're going. Or pick me up on a Friday night so we didn't have to leave as early for the Saturday races. And they were like, I genuinely believe without my grandparents, and especially my gramps, that I would not be where I am today. And they are just always an incredible source of support and just happy to see me running. And always interested in what I've been doing. And, so they're a huge source of support. But as of moving to Australia, you know, they weren't in the same country anymore. So bit of a different situation. But my biggest supports definitely have come through coaches more so than any governing body. I was an okay junior, but I was never, you know, one of the golden girls, shall we say, that always like did really well at state and nationals. I think it took me quite a while to actually make nationals for the first time, and when I did, I was ecstatic by it. And it's really just coming through in the way of family and my coaches. They're like, everything that I've done up until coming to Oregon was pretty much funded out of my own pocket and my own motivation. So I'd love to say it was different, but you know, it's just not the same if you're not a junior that like stood out from the gun. So
that's really cool, and sounds like your grandparents are pretty incredible people.
Yeah. Well, my gramps, he competes in this. It's called the Warwick Old Boys, but it's a cross country race with the school that he's an alumni of, and he's I won't go into specifics, but because he might be a bit upset, but he is definitely in the masters category, and I think he's the only 80+ competitor, but he competes in this like 5-mile cross-country race every single year.
That's awesome.
He's an 80-year-old. My God.
Yeah, well, yeah.
That's one goal we could all have, is still be running.
Oh yeah.
Still be running.
It's always so funny because you'll get to about 6 weeks out from it and he'll just say like, started training. I don't want to do it, but I'm going to.
Sounds like we need to get him on the podcast.
Yeah, I know.
He just trains. Oh, why not?
And so then you got to college and did your exchange semester at Waterloo. What was that like?
Well, the exchange semester wasn't motivated by athletics. It was actually just so I was studying at UTS and I had an opportunity to go on an exchange semester, and it was something I wanted to do. So I got in and I was accepted into that university in Canada, and I went over fully expecting them to like, I thought I was going to be training alone for the whole 6 months. I had mentally prepared myself for it. I was like, this is just going to suck, but that's how it's going to be. And I was lucky enough that I tried out for the varsity cross country team and they were willing to have me on board. And I did pretty well over there with the cross country scene.
Yeah, I think I can remember like seeing you on Instagram. Every time I opened Instagram, I was like, oh, Izzy's won another race. Like she's killing it over there.
Something like that. But yeah, I think I gave them a little bit of a shock when I went out and won the first cross country meet that they had on the calendar, and everybody was like, who's this random Canadian? And then it turned out to be, oh wait, she's an Australian. But yeah, everybody was like, oh, who's the Canadian that did really well in that New York race? I was like, no, that's me.
That's so cool. I didn't realize that you weren't on like, I don't know, you just went over as exchange with UTS.
Yeah, it was just something I wanted to do, and so I just went off and did it, basically.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And
so then
it was really good because the training was actually exactly the same as with Liddy, so there wasn't really any. I think the major difference was that they had no official gym session, so I did that all on my own on a Wednesday and a Sunday, but the rest of it was pretty much exactly the same, just different people in a different location. So
I think that's the thing about running. Pretty much everyone's doing the same thing. It's like there's no secrets really most of the time.
Yeah, I don't know who it was in Australian athletics that decided that track sessions should be a Tuesday and a Thursday, but it seems to have taken hold.
Yeah.
In the UK, it seems to be similar with like a Monday and a Wednesday. So it's like different countries have similar attitudes to when a session should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone just the Sunday long run as well. But I think that's a staple for everywhere, is it?
Oh yeah, look, it is. But that being said, Oregon normally does their long runs on a Saturday, and I've got to be honest, I am fully converted to that. That
Really?
is a wonderful system. I love it. Like, it means that Sunday is my rest day, and I don't have to wake up on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
I don't want to. So yeah.
But yeah,
Good
so
point.
you just went over to Waterloo and killed it. And then how'd you end up in Oregon?
Well, it's actually funny because it was when I was in Canada, I got an email from Helen, the coach, the women's coach here, and like I had previously had no interest in being a part of the NCAA. John at the time had some pretty strong opinions on it because he had athletes come over here and they hadn't done as well, or they'd just sort of like been overworked and didn't cope with the training that is on offer here. So I was kind of like a little bit impressionable at the time and hadn't really looked into everything to make my own opinion just yet. But Helen had reached out to me after this race in New York, which I had done for the Waterloo Warriors. And yeah, she basically said like, hi, would you be interested in potentially being a part of the Oregon Ducks? And I was like, oh, okay.
That's really wild.
That's a new one.
Yeah.
Like right after I'd finished high school, I'd been reached out by a couple of universities, and I'd sort of read through the emails and just politely replied back saying like, hi, I wasn't interested. And at the time, finishing high school was a very difficult period because, there was John who wasn't very well, and finishing high school is just finishing high school is finishing high school, and any HSC student or ex-HSC student knows exactly what that's like.
Yeah.
I just moved from the UK, so it seemed a bit weird to move from the UK to Australia, to be in Australia for like 2-3 years and then bugger off to America for 4 years. I wasn't about it. So she actually reached out at pretty much the perfect time. And yeah, that's, I guess, how I got here. So
That's awesome. Yeah.
but
we were going to ask about, we were having a little look last night at the facilities.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
look absolutely incredible. So what's it like? What's it like training? What's it like training there?
I mean, the first, I pinch myself every time I step out onto the track. Like, it's made for athletes. It's not a standard layout that you see it, say, SoPac or at any of the other major stadiums that you might find. But you like, we have thumbprint scanners to let us into the facility, and like the training room and the treatment room, there's like a hydrotherapy room, there's a room with anti-gravity machines in it. They have something called lane 10, which is like these 2 lanes. It's still the same track material, it's just in green with the white decal, like a track that just continues through the facility as you're walking around, and then different doors where it opens onto the track, and like marathon tunnel, garage door type things which open in different spaces, which is helpful for when you're going in and out. And yeah, but you step onto Hayward Field, like the actual track itself, and it's like it's difficult to articulate into words because people can tell you what it's like, but until you actually step out onto a track like that yourself, you can't really appreciate the atmosphere and the energy that's there. Like it might be tied to knowing Oregon's history and the events that have taken place there, the championships that have been run, and the fact that it is a new facility. It's been upgraded from the old Hayward Field, but it's really retained a lot of magic. And they're not just saying that on Instagram. Like, you step out, and if you're fully invested in what you're doing there, then you you would be able to feel it as well. And it's special.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. There's like no other facility that's kind of like purpose built just for athletics like that.
No.
in the
I mean,
world,
not
which
that
is
I'm aware of,
crazy.
but I'm always open to be proven wrong. So
No, it's awesome. And what about have you got like any other support from, I don't know, like a dietitian or strength training coaches? What sort of supports around you at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. There's so over in North America, they sort of refer to physiotherapists as athletic trainers. So they have a team of athletic trainers, and there's team doctors on board, which they're not always exclusive to the track and field team, but they are to the athletic program. So they might work with football, for example, or volleyball, as well as track and field, but they are there as a resource for student athletes. We have a team, we have a team nutritionist, and we have like a weights coach. We have our main coach, Helen, who heads the running side of everything, and then there's a head coach overall, which is Robert Johnson, who is like, I guess, the big cheese of Oregon track and field. But there's always a resource to turn to. You've got team managers. I refer to Megan and Jill, who are, I guess that might be their role name. I'm not 100% sure what the title is officially, but I refer to them as like the fairy godmothers, because you need something happening, they just get it done. There's an equipment manager. So if you ever need like new equipment, whether that's shoes or like you're getting the gear out or uniforms for races, there's a dedicated room and like guy who heads that. And trying to think, like, there's so much support, and it's not like you're focusing on one individual for all of your training. There's a interdisciplinary team that is working with athletes to help get the best out of athletes for it.
Wow.
And
crazy.
team psychologist as well. Sorry, just remembered that one. So if you feel like you want to go and see the psychologist, there is one that is on offer. And just there's like a student athlete committee thing, which is made up of student athletes. So that's not like a faculty based support, but it is another one which is available. And they run different events. Like most recently there was a mental health panel. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot of places you can turn to if you need some support.
Wow. It's not just your grandpa anymore.
No.
What would you, if you compare training to sort of your current training and previous training, is there anything that sticks out that's different? I'm not sure how much you can go into the specifics of your training, but
I mean, I feel like here, while I'm here at Oregon, I'm treated more as a professional athlete than I have been previously. And that, but that being said, I've been with Liddy since I was like 18, and, a junior. That's not, it's not the same context that, people in. And, there's a difference between an NCAA program and like a squad back home dynamic and situation. So there's, whenever I say like a difference, it's not like there's a hierarchy or like a better way of doing things. But one thing that I would notice is, being here, I feel like I'm treated more as a professional athlete, just because of, like, I go and I can get a massage right before a race, and like I go see the physio straight afterwards, and like they'll have a per diem card for any food needs that I have while I'm away on a meet, and everything's sorted for me. Like back home, usually I'm the one that has to book my flights, and I have to register for races, and I have to go off and do that, and that's just how it works back home. So that would be, I guess, the main difference. Another one would be that over here, I've noticed we do 2 main sessions a week. So Helen likes to have hard days hard and easy days easy. And we will typically have 2 hard days a week. and the rest will be like easy and just like chipping away at it and just doing what we need to do, but not at a particularly difficult difficult rate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and whereas back home you'd usually have 3, so that is a difference in programming, but it's yeah, those would be I think those would be the 2 main differences just at a glance.
Does a threshold session count as hard, or is it more speed?
Well, so Helen calls them comfy steadies, and I would have to disagree that they are always comfy. But I am not the only person that has that opinion.
Me too.
Sometimes like, you'll put in like, oh yeah, this should be comfy steady, and everybody else is just like, so this is going to be fairly difficult. It might be steady, but yeah,
Still
like
hurts.
when I refer to hard sessions, they're you know, the track sessions and the weight days. I guess you could argue that comfy steady should be, if the perceived effort is high enough, then it should reflect a hard versus easy day, but I don't think it's considered a hard day in Helen's book.
Okay, all right, interesting. Yeah, that certainly can be some of the grueling workouts that I do personally, but yeah, that's anyway. What were we done?
What's
Lost my train of thought.
how's racing compare in the US compared to Australia? Like, I imagine just the atmosphere at an NCAA race would just be phenomenal compared to Australia. Have you noticed any differences there?
I have not done a huge number of races just yet. I did 1 cross-country race last season, and then I've done this last weekend at the Pac-12 Invite and something called the Windy City Invitational 2 weeks ago. So my NCAA racing experience is admittedly limited, but it is an environment like it's not your Sydney Miler series at the Crest. It's closer to Albie Thomas, but every single time.
Yeah.
I remember we were competing so the Dellinger Invitational was my debut race over here. I had to run it unattached just because of some NCAA regulations regarding like Australian athlete. It's a bit weird, but with the Australian academic calendar, the NCAA calculates eligibility. Some weird, I have no idea how they do it, but point is that I had to race that one unattached, which is why, like, you might have seen some photos before of the pinstripe type uniform, which was that race.
Yeah.
But this cross-country race, there were people either side of the barrier in like rows of like 3 or 4 the entire way around. Like, and like you could see in your peripheral, like you'd go past them, and then like this group of people would just like yeet it from one side of the barrier to the other side because you were going to go and do a hairpin and like come back the other way. Like,
wow.
It's so dynamic, the number of spectators, and it's not just, you know, parents and coaches, it's people who are actually invested in cross country and track. And the COVID regulations over here are easing up, but they've remained pretty firm at the same time. So it's not, from what I understand, it's not as big a scene as it normally is, but it's like you need to get used to seeing people around a track, which is something I haven't always had to deal with. But yeah,
that's crazy. And you ended up winning that race, which is like a pretty big way to announce like you've arrived in Oregon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, there's not many people that win NCAA cross country races. That's pretty special.
Yeah, I definitely appreciated it for what it was while it lasted, because I know that that's the likelihood of that continuing my entire NCAA career and even like my professional career afterwards, I know is going to be, those victories are going to be far and few between, because the NCAA is as prestigious as it is. So yeah, I was ecstatic with that race and with that opening, and it was a very good start to my Oregon career, so I was very happy with it.
Yeah. And Are you like a bit of a big name on campus now? Like everyone's like, oh shit, there's Izzy. Like, watch out.
I always feel awkward when it comes to that. I mean, there was this one very awkward situation once where I rocked up to class, and there was a guy in the class who was just like, "Oh, you're Izzy Thornton Bott, right?" And I went, "Yeah, that's me." And oh, sorry, it wasn't in class. It was outside as I was on my way to class, and I was just like, "Oh, yeah, that's me." And what's your name? And so like we had a chat, and then walked into the same classroom together, and I hadn't realized that he was in my class. I was just like, oh no. But yeah, I had a couple of people who recognized me on campus, and like there was a very weird experience in Walmart where somebody had also been like, "Oh, are you the girl that won Dellinger?" I was like, "Yeah," and so not
That
used
must
to
be
it.
crazy.
Yeah, it was a bit weird, but you know, after the race, it was really sweet because I met a couple of like younger girl athletes who were just like, "Oh, that's so cool that you did that, and can we get a picture together?" And it's just strange. You have to adapt, is what I've learned with the NCAA. Like when, a byproduct of doing well at races is that people will usually remember your name, and I'm quite happy to just sort of rock up and do my own thing and race, but I've not had as much experience with the whole being recognized outside of races up until now.
Yeah,
so.
That's crazy. I can't believe, like I still can't believe like that you're in Oregon. Like I don't know. I just remember you, the kid at the track.
Neither can I, if it's any consolation.
What's like the college lifestyle like? Everyone always talks about US College, like all the parties and
I figure that might be coming.
Yeah. Ask.
Look, I am not a big partier. I enjoy them on occasion. And I know that they like exist, you know, there's definitely frat houses and frat parties. And for my first semester living over here, I very unfortunately lived on Greek Row, which was an error in judgment. I'm very aware that there were frat parties going on. I just didn't go to them.
Yeah.
And there'll be, you know, the thing over here is the legal drinking age is 21, and then you're getting all these uni students leaving home and going to dorms when they're 18-year-olds. So there's a big party atmosphere in the sense that like people will crowd in another person's apartment and because they can't go to a bar, or they'll go to a frat party, or they'll go to a house. But that is more of a typical college experience. When it's a student athlete, there are house parties at different people's houses, but I think at the end of the day, we all know that we're student athletes, and they don't. I haven't been to a party where it's been as wild as you might make, you know, the media or like television might make it out to be. So I'm sorry if that's such a disappointing answer, but parties exist and they happen, and yes, I have been to some of them, but like the most wild thing I think has happened was I FaceTimed my mum as I walked home one night, so and she was just like, "What are you doing awake?"
And what about like in the student athlete program, is there like a good sort of community feel? Like I imagine you guys spend a fair bit of time together.
Well, you're seeing everybody pretty much every single day, at least once a day. They'll have on your own runs, or OYO. I love that anagram. It's like on your own, and it means yes, sleeping. But yeah, you see each other pretty much every single day, and you live with each other, and half the time you're studying with each other, or there's a community built within a team environment, and you know, you'll travel together, you'll room in the hotel together, you'll be racing together or against one another. You'll have sometimes you'll be called up to do pacing duties for another person. So this team is relatively young. It's quite new, and in the sense that there are a lot of fresh faces on the team, including me this last year, compared to how many have been here in the previous years. I think it's like 4 maybe out of 17 are like returners or veterans, whatever you want to say.
It's hardly any, yeah.
Yeah, so just because it was like a class where people all graduated, or COVID, it just things change for different people. So it's a unique situation, and I think we're all learning to live with one another and train together, and there's a dynamic which works for everybody at the moment, and means that everybody can get the best out of training and the experience here. But it's like any team environment, there's always going to be things you can work on, but and there'll be people that will need to be more supported than others, and that's not a downside. That's just you need to learn these things as a part of life, and it's a great team environment, and Helen is very good at working on it because she wants the best out of a collegiate team, which means that we all need to work together and with one another rather than against one another. So
cool.
That's awesome.
And how's uni been? What's like the lectures like? How does it compare to UTS and Waterloo, I guess?
I mean, I love it. This is the best uni experience so far, and like from an academic standing. I'm studying a Bachelor of Science in Anthropology. I'm still choosing my major, whether it'll go into archaeology or biological anthropology.
Oh, wow.
But I have a previous degree from UTS in STEM, so Bachelor of Technology and Innovation, which that was very, it was a weird degree because it was so like the university and this faculty was aiming at transdisciplinary innovation and like making it as incorporated and as non-traditional as possible, and there were elements of that worked, and there were others which for people like me it did not. So I like the system over here because you've got your lectures and you've got your labs, tutorials or whatever, and I have a healthy mix of the in-person classes and then some online classes. So I'm taking 3 classes a term at the moment, and one of them is like, I'll go to lectures 3 times a week, and the other one is a hybrid this term, so I'll have video lectures which I have to do before an in-person lecture, and then I've got an in-person lab, and then I've got another class where it's all online. So it ties in quite nicely for my training and the lifestyle which I'm living right now, which I appreciate. But back home it was like I always had to go in for workshops and like tutorials and not lectures because that wasn't what I was doing. But in Waterloo, it was a lecture, classroom, lab situation as you would find with any standard college experience. But I've had a good mix of different learning environments from the different unis and schools, but this is the best one so far, and it's good because I know that I have academic advisors, and the track programs are like helps you to work your class schedule around training, and then if there's like an unavoidable conflict then it's still workable, if that makes sense.
Sounds like pretty good setup. And so how much longer have you got left at Oregon then?
So I redshirted last cross country season, so I should have until fall 2023. So I have basically 2 of each left, including this indoor season.
Right.
So 2 years.
Yeah. Okay. That's still a while then. And have you thought much about what's going to happen once you finish?
Here and there. I know that I want to go pro, but I don't know what capacity that will be in because and different brands have different contracts and different requirements. So I'm not really thinking too heavily into it right now because I know what I would ideally want, but what I ideally want may not be feasible. So it's more like I'm just going with the flow, and we'll see what happens when we get to, what the options are when we get to the other end. So
I think
I know that I want to pursue some form of a professional running career, though, for sure.
Yeah, that's crazy. Was that ever like a thought prior to going to college? Did you ever think I'm going to be a professional runner?
Oh yeah. I think I've always known that it's something that I want to do, and I want to really have a red hot go at. It might seem a bit of a controversial thing just because of what happened a couple of years ago, but I remember when I was younger, and we were watching the World Championships, and Oscar Pistorius stepped on to the track, and watching something like that was so just awe-inspiring for me at that age. And like, you know, David Weir, who these are, you know, that's a wheelchair British athletes, and like you watching Jessica Ennis-Hill win gold at the London 2012 Olympics, and Greg Rutherford in the long jump, Mo Farah in the 5 and the 10K, you know, just watching things, even like Beijing 2008, different performances. I actually remember watching Yusuf Abdi racing in the steeplechase, and like, he was just one of those characters that stood out. I don't think he knows that, but I remember watching him race and thinking, this is awesome. And, but just watching different Commonwealth Games and Olympics and World Championships growing up, and those things just really resonated in me. And I remember being younger and like always saying like, oh, well, when I grow up, I'll do this, but I'll also be an Olympic athlete on the side. Because, you know, that's how it works when you're like 7 years old or whatever. No, it's just something that I've always known like I wanted to do. I didn't know it was necessarily going to translate to professional running, but I just knew that I wanted to go to things like the Olympics, and I want to compete on a world stage for Australia, and I want to, you know, go and compete on different Diamond League circuits and just be a part of that atmosphere. And this is really the time to do it. So
a pretty incredible life to have if you can get there. And I guess like you're only young once, your body only is going to be good for a certain amount of time, so you may as well give it your best shot. I obviously have aspirations outside of professional running, but well, they're not really relevant to this conversation. And being a better runner by not talking about running. And no, you know, I have aspirations outside of professional running, which I think are incredibly important, because if you focus 100% on running and just hard running all the time, you're only doing yourself a disservice. You're only going to go downhill and run backwards, so to speak. It's not actually going to work out for you. You need to have balance in your life. And I make sure that I do things outside of running which, you know, give me happiness and don't associate me with the athlete label. I've got a really good group of friends back home that I'm very, very lucky to have, and they'll ask how my running's going, and they'll tune in and like be interested in it, but we don't talk about running. Like we do other things together, and it's great because that's what you need to do. But right now is my opportunity to pursue that professional running dream, and now is what I'm taking that time for. So
I think that strategy you have, where it's like 2 years, is quite down the track. So just focusing on your training, everything you're doing at the moment, because you can't really predict, like you couldn't have predicted how you got to where you are right now. So
I don't think anybody can predict what's going, like who would have predicted something like COVID? Who would have predicted, you know, there's going to be epidemiologists who will be like, actually, comparing this for ages, but you know, like hindsight is a wonderful thing. But And you know, who's to say what is going to be happening a year from now? Who's to say what's going to be happening next week? Who's to say what's going to be happening in 10 years? Like, you just don't know. And if you project too much into the future, I think that you lose what you're actually doing at this current time. And right now I am in the NCAA as an Oregon Duck. I'm in my indoor season and we are preparing for indoor nationals. And we're ranked 3rd in the NCAA right now. There is no reason why we as a team can't put together something awesome and, just, add something else to Oregon's history. But that's what I find value in focusing on right now.
Yeah.
And I'll think about and I'll consider what I want to do in the future, because it's a good idea to have an idea of what you might want to do in a few years from now. But that's not my biggest priority right now. Like, right now I need to be here and enjoy this experience. And that's something that I can credit Canada and running with the Waterloo Warriors for quite a bit, because it was the first time I didn't have athletics as a priority. But, I got to travel and, hang out with other exchange students and do different things for 6 months. And it was incredibly eye-opening. But yeah, right now it's it like professional running is something I want to do. It's just how I'm going to do that I'm not too worried about right now, because I don't think that's worth the anxiety that it might cause.
Absolutely
or
not.
like what can I do about it right now?
Yeah, you're right. Focusing on the
Except
here and
stress.
now is all you can do.
Just enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. How does it work with traveling home? Do you have any plans?
Lengthy. Well, so the Commonwealth Games are supposed to end on August 8th this year. And we've got such a big year with big championships. Well, I consider them big championships. I don't know whatever, but you've got the World University Games, you've got the World Athletic Championships here in Eugene, and then you've got Commonwealth Games all in the same year. Ideally, I would like to compete at least one of those. I've qualified I've run a qualifying time in the 5K for the World University Games. So that is on the cards for me. I know that. And Helen is very optimistic that I can run the Com Game qualifiers. And, there was one meeting we had where we were talking about aspirations. She's like, why aren't you including the World Championships on that one? I went, well, we can. I wasn't saying I wasn't. I think it was reasonable right now. And, I have no idea what this year is going to entail in terms of the big athletic championships right now. But I do know that as of August 8th, those options will not be there. Like, they will have happened. So maybe that's the period where I can go home for a bit, which would be nice, before we start back up again in later September for cross country. But otherwise, I'm pretty determined that, Christmas break will be spent in Australia, and not just because it's winter over here and I don't enjoy the cold, but yeah. So Christmas, I'm pretty determined will be, winter break. It's summer, holidays, whatever. It'll be back home over December.
Cool. I know this is a segue question, but how has it been adjusting to the weather?
Well, whenever it gets cold, I just remind myself, at least it's not Canada. That was cold.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I remember very vividly the weekend before I flew back home, which was actually also the day I landed within 24 hours of Albie Thomas and competed in that, which I wouldn't recommend. 36 hours of traveling. I got on the plane in negative 17 degrees Celsius and I got off in like 41, and I would not recommend that on anybody.
That would be talk about shock to the system.
That was a terrible idea. But yeah, there was like a Sunday run which we did. The weekend before I left, and it was like -15. I had 2 pairs of thermal leggings on and I still wasn't warm, and there's just not enough layers in the world when you get to that temperature. And there are some parts of Canada where it's like -40 degrees, and I'm like, at least it's not Canada.
Yeah.
I will not complain of the cold after that, but I will also make a big deal out of it. So yeah, like adjusting to temperature, it's like I grew up in the UK and then I spent that time in Canada, but yeah, doesn't, just because I know about it doesn't mean I have to enjoy it. Yeah.
We normally have a question when we're wrapping up, and it's normally sort of attached to a lot of emotion, but what's your favorite race? Do you remember like one that really sticks out?
Ooh.
That's a difficult one.
When you look, there are definitely races which I've considered poignant to my career, and ones which stood out to me in ways that other people might not appreciate. But when you asked me that question and you said about an emotional response, I would have to say my 800-meter PB last year. So I, like, as a little bit of context, I got back from Canada, and then just before, it was like between bushfires and before COVID hit, but I came down with acute glandular fever, and it took me out for better part of like 8 months, I think it was. And I was really ill, like really not in a good space. I went on bed rest for like 6 weeks. I had to go on a really awful diet, and I was very weak and ill and not at all my normal self. And we had COVID going on, and just a lot of things were happening in 2020 outside of COVID for me, which made it a really, really difficult year. And then February last year, I drove down to Canberra. Like, I literally worked that morning, drove down in my own time. We had like a major lightning storm, and like I just went in and I just raced this 800 to race. And I'd gone into the season with 2:08 as my 800 PB, and then I did a Canberra race like 2-3 weeks prior to that where I ran 2:06, and I knew I had more in me, and I thought like maybe 2:05, maybe even 2:04 was possible. And then like I crossed the line and I'd run 2:03 low. And like just knowing the difference between where I'd been a year prior and that had actually happened, it really solidified like, hey, I'm actually quite good at this running thing. Like maybe I can actually do all these things which I've wanted to do. And it meant a huge amount to me. And I remember Liddy, like I got back to my phone like not even 5 minutes after the race had finished. I had like 4 missed calls from Liddy. And he's like, he'd pick up the phone because I called him back, and he picked up within like 1 ring, and he was like, what the hell was that? It was so good. And yeah, I went home, I got myself some ice cream, and like just had a great night. Like really had a good time, and it meant a lot to me. And on paper people might be able to look at it and go like, oh cool, she's a 2:03 runner, and that's but it meant so much more than just running a fast time. It meant it meant a huge deal to me. So wow. And I hope to improve on it, but yeah.
And it's funny when you give that context, like the difference between how ill you were and then to go that must have been incredible.
Yeah, well, like there are pictures from that period which will hopefully never be public, but very jaundiced and not looking too healthy and generally quite unhappy with life. But I'll refer back to my earlier point, like you never know where you're going to be a year from now. And sometimes it's just you have to take each day as it comes and accept that things are out of your control, but that doesn't mean you can't work around them. So Yeah, but
That's-
that season was such a good one last year, and probably my best one ever. So I'm just excited to work on it more. But the highlight race of my career thus far would probably have to be that 2:03. But
Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
I think like
Yeah.
the 800 is pretty special too, because it's so hard to get right. Like I feel like
Yeah.
when I broke 2 for the 800, like I was like,
same
I
track.
don't know, same track,
Same
same
track.
Canberra.
Same track.
But yeah, it felt like it's just so emotional because you put so much effort into it, and like I feel like sometimes races just don't go the right way, and
Sometimes.
to have it all just click like that is so special.
Yeah, well, the weird thing is like I had to like rush my warm up because like they pulled the race forward, didn't look at the timetable properly, and I didn't like, I don't know, I just felt so chilled like right before it happened, and I was like, yeah, cool, I'm just gonna go run an 800 and just this is it. Like,
Easy
you know,
203.
racing the race itself, it was just like I don't know how I've ever felt so relaxed, and like, can you call an 800 relaxing? Like, I don't think you can. But I was just in the zone, but not like, oh, angry face, like just like I was just there, I was present, I was just happy to be running again, and something magical came out of it. And I just really appreciate that race for what it was, and it was a pretty cool experience. So
Yeah.
and I got ice cream, you know.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on the show, Izzy. It's been
thanks for inviting me.
No worries. It's been
It's been awesome.
so insightful, and you've been so open and honest with us, just sharing all that you've shared. So I think that we've got a lot out of it, and I'm sure that anyone who listens will really appreciate it too. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, well,
thanks.
You're welcome. And thank you for just asking me to come on board.
All right.
Nice little Instagram message from the Raging Bullock. I was like, oh, hello, it's been a hot minute since I spoke to Dom. Let's see what he's got to say. Yeah.
No, thanks so much. And best of luck with the season ahead.
Thank you, and good luck for you guys as well. What have you guys got coming up next?
I've moved into the trails and more ultra stuff this year and this season. So at the moment there's a race in the Blue Mountains called 6 Foot Track that I'm training for. And that's in 2 weeks. And then after that there's like a 100K race and then 100-mile race. So it's
gonna be a big year.
Just casual 100K. I'm good, thanks. I like running dumb, but not that much.
I know, like I never thought I'd be doing this stuff, but it's like I found it really enjoyable, and I'm glad that I've given it a go.
I look forward to seeing the results on that one.
Thanks.
And are you the same, Luke, or are you up for a different something?
I'm just gonna try run a good half marathon in Canberra. That's the immediate goal, and then maybe a marathon at the end of the year. I don't know.
Cool.
Yeah.
When is Canberra?
10th of April. 10th of April, yeah, so it's coming up. And then I was thinking maybe doing, what's that one? Gold Coast Marathon.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it'll be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, enjoy, guys. Good luck. I look forward to seeing the results on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. Well, we'll talk to you later. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. Have a good one.
See ya. Thanks.
Thanks, Izzy, for another great episode of With the Chiefs. That was really good and really insightful, to get a bit of insight into how college athletes train and what the future holds for Izzy. I think we're super lucky to have Izzy on the show, and really appreciative of her putting the time in to come and chat with us. For the shout outs for this week, we've got a couple of shout outs. One is for Arden, who said, "Another great episode, lads," in reference to the episode with Sally. Arden's training for UTA. He had a a bit of trouble last year and had to pull out about halfway through, but he's back for redemption this year and he's looking fitter than ever. So thanks for the feedback, Arden, and best of luck with your training, mate. Smitty, I think you got a shout out as well.
Yeah, we got a shout out from and some good feedback from our good friend Scott McEwen, who said we really took it to another level with the podcast, the previous podcast. Scott is training for a 10K. He's just finished a triathlon. He's still in sort of his base building phase, but I think we're going to see, definitely with Scott's determination and his drive, we're going to see some, if that translates across from business over to running, we might all be in trouble. So, but I guess until next time, Dom, stay strong.
Stay fast.